Doug Ose was first elected to the U.S. Congress in 1998 and re-elected twice by convincing margins, serving until 2005. He ran again in 2014 for his old seat unsuccessfully and recently announced he's running for governor in the recall election. Ose has two main concerns that he wants you to know about: getting water for farmers and keeping kids in school. So you're running for governor, and when did you decide to do this?
Well, it's about 6 weeks ago I pulled the trigger.
Okay.
I mean,
What made you do it?
I've been thinking about it for a while, and I just got to the point where I know we could do better, and I said I can't change it from the sidelines, so let's go.
Mm-hmm. So since you said you were going to run, what's the feedback been? You're traveling around. Where is the Doug Ose campaign now?
Well, right now we're locking down my traditional footprint. So we're spending a lot of time in the ag areas, Northern California, Central California. Most of the people I'm talking to have very focused concerns. In the ag areas, it's water and schools. And then in the ag areas, it's water and schools. In the other ag areas, it's water and schools. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to connect with folks. I mean, you know my background. I've been in ag for 50 years. So I have a track record of delivering stuff. People are rightly concerned that they're going to end up not being able to plant the tomatoes and the other vegetables, or they're going to have to rip out trees, and that there's been no concerted effort. There's no recognition that drought is not a unique circumstance. This is not unusual for us. And they're frustrated that even though we have drought every 5 years, we never seem to build anything to address the shortage of water. Even though the voters in 14 said, build sites, build temperance flats. Nothing's happening. And they're just fed up.
There's a couple of things in the hopper. You got the Sites Reservoir, which is in the Maxwell area, and then the one in Patterson, which is smaller. So would you count that as something in the works?
Well, the reality is, Walt, that even though the voters by a 2-to-1 margin approved those projects in 14, all we've done, first under Governor Brown and now under Governor Newsom, is study it. No dirt's been moved. There's no plans drawn. Nothing. My point here is that after 6 years, a 2-to-1 vote of the voters, 2-to-1, that wins. Let's build the things. Let's quit studying it, and let's build it. And let's get C.C. Myers out there and build the damn thing.
Well, that's the legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So for you as an ag guy, a conservative guy, and you're going on the stump and you're talking about water and ag, how would that help you get elected? Because it's more than just that.
There's a broad array of issues, all right? And while I'm in the ag areas, I'm focusing on water and schools, because I would tell you, Walt, people are as frustrated with schools as they are with water. Parents are to the point now where they just say, let me decide where my kid goes to school, and then let the funding follow the kid. And if you don't like that, then do a better job, kind of thing. School choice. There's homelessness. The homelessness stuff. I mean, homelessness is a very interesting issue, because when you stand in front of a group of people and you talk about the precursor conditions to homelessness, the drug addiction and the mental illness, you see people in the audience. They start kind of nodding very slightly. So you know that they're familiar with the problem, either because it's in their family or their neighbors have it or whatever. So they know that the drug addiction and the homelessness are connected, and they know the mental illness and the homelessness are connected. And going back to this frustration thing, in the state of California today, this fiscal year, today, June 15th, the state of California has 41 different programs addressing homelessness spread across 9 different agencies, spending $4 billion a year, and the number of homeless just keeps getting larger. Now, 41 programs, 9 agencies, who's in charge? I mean, this is chaos. I mean, you and I both, this isn't our first rodeo, okay? You got 41 programs, 9 agencies. Who's in charge? We need somebody in charge. The governor needs to put his hands on the problem. spend some political capital.
California has 58 counties. You could say county by county, there's more conservative counties than probably liberal counties, right?
Landmass-wise.
Landmass-wise, California might as well be red. But of course, that's not the issue. So what do you think the chances are of you specifically or one of your fellow conservatives actually unseating the person of whom you speak of?
I think in a regular election in California, a Republican is running uphill, statewide, right? That's just a fact. I think the most important thing you can do is you got to talk to people about things affecting their everyday life. I mean, for instance, the water issue. There are Republicans and Democrats live in an ag area. They're all dependent on water. Let's get somebody who can address water. It's not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's just a fundamental kitchen table issue. The public schools. If you got kids in school and the school's failing, they don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat. Fix the school. Get my kid educated. On the homelessness, you know, these are our brothers and sisters who are drug addicted and mentally ill. It's not partisan. You know, it's my success. I mean, you've seen what I do. My success is that I talk about things that affect people's everyday life. It's not about Republican or Democrat. I can do that, but that's not what's important.
Do you enjoy public life? Or is it something you feel that you're just called to?
I would say 90% of the time it's fun. I mean, when you have to travel all day, every day, it can be a grind. But when you get there and you get to meet people and talk to them, that just fires me up. Because, you know, whether you're living in Crescent City or Imperial Valley or, you know, North Lake Tahoe or, you know, Emeryville, the problems are pretty consistent. They are. We just want to be allowed to enjoy our lives.
Were you obviously watching what's been going on in the state since the pandemic began? Were you watching there? Were you cursing? What was your blood pressure level based on the decisions that were being made here in Sacramento?
All right. So the first movement I thought was appropriate. Which was basically everybody stay home. Let's figure this out. But in 30 days' time, for instance, the private schools, because it's an existential question to them, they had figured out how to have kids and teachers physically in classrooms, in their seats, at the blackboard, continuing with their education. Not because they wanted to, because they had to. All the food processors up and down the state, the guys that process the tomatoes or that do the wine grapes or whatever, you know, their employee staff, those folks are hourly workers, and they were told they were essential, so they had to show up. That was the law. They had to show up, but there was no means by which either the employers or the state provided solutions for their health safety or safe harbors for the employers to bring them into work. That was fundamental mistakes, right? So my view here is, Walt, is that after 30 days, we had a pretty good handle on the approaches to dealing with COVID. Schools could have been open. The protocols could have been taken from the schools and applied to small business up and down the state, so they could have stayed open. The assembly line things where food is processed that's so critical to this state, they could have stayed open. And yet there was no recognition of the advancement in knowledge. We got locked into what we did on day one, and we didn't evolve as we got more and more information. I hold Governor Newsom accountable for that.
Do you feel that he was just doing the better safe than sorry? That the safe play for him was to go in hard and lock down? What if he had been just like, hey man, this is really, I don't think it's a big deal, and it could have exploded? I mean, is that possible?
It is possible, and you know, we might get hit by a meteor here too. So I think Newsom's initial reaction was appropriate. I fault him for not learning as he went, right? He got locked in to a one-size-fits-all response, which is lockdown, nobody do anything. And the evidence that came forward was that, no, we can do stuff. For instance, the situation in Los Angeles is far different than the situation in Lassen County, or the situation in Lassen County is far different than it is in El Dorado County. And yet the approach, the government edict was, we will only do that which is appropriate in LA County. Well, that wasn't right. That was shown to be not right. And Governor Newsom did not evolve. And I hold him accountable for that, because that cost a lot of people a lot of money and a lot of jobs.
There's a lot of people that would look at the governor and say, you know what, if I were governor, I don't know that I would have done things differently, or maybe I would have. Policy, whatever. What about, there are people that don't like him personally. I mean, there are things he does which are prickly. They seem to be, fill in the answer here.
Well, I don't know Newsom personally.
Okay.
I've studied him from afar. I think he has, so one of the keys to my success, both in private and public life, is that I listen to everybody. I mean, if somebody says something that piques my interest, I turn and I stop and I say, expand on that. I think one of the failures that Newsom did was his circle of advisors is very tight. It's very small. He didn't have a sufficient universe of input, and it cost this state terribly as a result.
For you going forward, trying to garner as much conservative support as you can in this recall coming up, how much of a wagon are you going to hook up to the Trump pickup? I mean, what do you do with that? You have no chance of winning anything unless you have those people. So, is that true?
So let's walk through that.
Okay.
All right. So politics is additive. You have to start with this, and then you add, and then you add, and then you add. You got to make your case every time you add somebody. I was the state chairman for Trump. I was the state chairman for Trump in 2016. Mm-hmm. For me, the dynamic was Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. All right? I know Hillary Clinton. I have dealt with Hillary Clinton and John Podesta and the rest of the Clinton team. I had a sense of who Trump was. I knew I didn't want this. And I knew after Governor Bush dropped out that I thought Trump was the only guy who could win. And my judgment proved correct. It's interesting, even today I get criticized for having been correct, but okay, criticize me for being correct. I think in California, for a Republican to win, they have to acknowledge the good things that President Trump did, you know, above all other things. I mean, go back to Dwight Eisenhower. When he left office, he warned us about the military-industrial complex and permanent war. And I mean, I know the kids that got buried here because of what we did in the Middle East. I mean, I went to their funerals. Trump broke the continuum. And for that, I am grateful. I mean, we cannot be a country that's always at war. In addition to that, Hispanic unemployment, historic lows. Black unemployment, historic lows. Economic growth, significant across all cohorts of the population. Did people get wealthy or wealthier? Yes. Did the cohort down here at the relatively low levels get raised up? Yes. Is that happening now? No, it's not. There's a schism in our society, and it's a problem, and we need to deal with it. But I mean, back to your question about Trump. Yeah, I supported Trump. If it was Trump versus Clinton again, I'd support Trump again. Neither of them's perfect. I mean, we're not talking about church here.
No, we're not.
You know?
Definitely not. So in order for you to reach out and be a successful candidate, I mean, first of all, you would have to get through the Republicans that you're not lumped in with, but there are others who are running. What will separate you from a Falconer or a Cox or Kevin Kiley or anyone like that?
Well, what I bring to the table is a track record of success. All right. On the private side of my private affairs, I've been very successful. When I was in office, I was very productive. All right. For instance, when I was in office, I was part of the team that got tax cuts. when I was in office, I wrote the Specialty Crops Competitiveness Act that opened up all sorts of opportunities for the 300 plus crops that are grown here in this state. I was able to bring federal assistance to local government to deal with backlogs of drug cases and rape kits and things like that. I'm the only one in this race who's done that. There are others in this race who have supported increasing local taxes. Republicans. There are others in this race who are similarly successful business people to me, but have never held office. They don't understand how the institutions work to the degree I do. And there are some in this race who just, I can't believe this in a Republican, who didn't support protecting Prop 13. When given the chance to protect Prop 13, they went and played golf. I find that just amazing.
What would you, as a Republican, what is the health or the state of the party in this state at this state and time?
That's a great question. So you think, but you were here in Sacramento when I ran in '98. I was not the chosen one. Okay, I mean that's just the way it was. And I remember the battles. But the fact of the matter was, when I ran, I'd been in this city for 42 years. There wasn't a scintilla of evidence of any scandal, fraud. You could go down the street, you could see the projects I'd been involved in that were successfully completed. I made my case, and the voters responded positively. I think the same dynamic exists today. People want somebody who can get stuff done. You know, politics is a very tedious business, all right? There's lots of, you know, like, well, we have to do it this way, or, you know, mama's nose is out of joint over here. And you just can't get bogged down in that. You got to stay on the goal.
Good advice.
You know, stay on the goal. You know, deal with this, but don't let that become the dominant thing. Stay on the goal. What do we need to do today? We need our kids back in school. I mean, your kids need to be back in school. You know, we need kids in the classroom. We need parents to have choice as to where their kids go to school, rather than be told where they have to go to school. We need to have the funding follow the kids to the school that the parents choose. We need to build new water storage, which the voters approved 6 years ago. We need to stop releasing prisoners from state prison before they've finished their sentence, because just frankly, they're showing up in our homeless encampments and they're preying on others and they're making a mess of our communities, and the decision to release them, while essentially a precautionary move, was proven to be unfounded. I mean, just get something done.
You mentioned reopening schools, reopening businesses. Now, as we move closer to a recall date, the schools are open and the businesses are open, which is fortunate timing for the incumbent. If this recall election had been held several months ago, we might be having a different conversation. The timing for you probably isn't as good as it would have been several months ago.
So let's be clear.
Okay.
The fact that the recall has forced Governor Newsom to change his policies and his approaches so that schools will now be open, hopefully in August, and the businesses are open today, that's a good thing. That's how politics is supposed to work. Is pressure supposed to be applied and policies are supposed to be changed. All right? So let's not put my political ambitions against something that happened that's good. Because having kids back in school, that's my goal. Having businesses open, that's my goal. I just wish it hadn't taken 12 months to get here.
Do you feel that this was a necessary attitude adjustment for the governor?
No, I think the governor, until he realized how vulnerable he was giving us all the brush off. None of this has happened until the last 30 days.
So the recall in of itself, whether it's successful or not, has been successful.
Has been a wonderful opportunity for certain politicians to change their positions.
To be humbled. Is humbled the right word?
Humbled is a good word. Politicians need to be humbled. I mean, I speak from experience. There are things that I did that I, in hindsight, wish I hadn't done. And it was explained to me subsequently, and I got the lesson. And I was younger then. I think humility is a very important aspect of a person who serves in office.
So between now and whenever we have this recall election, hopefully we'll know the date soon. Where will we find you? Are you going to be in Republican strongholds, shoring up support, or will you be in enemy territory trying to talk to people?
I'm going in the lion's den.
You are? Okay.
Yeah. You can't win as a Republican in California. You cannot win if you don't go talk to people who probably wouldn't ordinarily vote for you. It's additive, all right? 25% doesn't win. Well, it might in a recall, but in normal circumstances, it doesn't win. And with all due respect to the others, I got elected as a business person running for office. I won with 53. People saw what I could do. They reelected me with 58. They saw what a little seniority gave me the advantage to do. They reelected me with 63. So I draw from lots of different sources here. All right. I am not. I can remember the brass knuckles when I ran in '98. I was not the chosen one. I'm still probably not the chosen one. I'm not, the consultants and the other grifters, if you will, that run the parties, whether the Democrat or Republican.
Why wouldn't you be?
Because I won't put up with their crap.
Okay.
I just won't put up with their crap. When they say, well, we got to do this for this reason, I said, no, you don't. We got to do that because you're working for somebody whose interests are served by that. We don't have to do that. That helps one person. How about these other 37 people over here? I just won't put up with that crap.
Crap.
It is crap. It is. And both sides do it.
I know. The last thing I wanted to ask you, talking about your party, the governor was quoted in Politico not long ago saying that the Republican Party is destined for the waste bin of history. Was he speaking specifically to California, or was that, you believe, in some? The Republican Party is under fire right now.
I think the Republican Party has the opportunity here to do something rather significant. They just can't overreach. In the past, we put these what I call shiny objects up as our candidates, and they're about this deep. All right. What we need is somebody who's kind of been knocked to the ground, had to get up, brush themselves off, figure out how to fix something, and then get it fixed. If you want a shiny object, I'm not it. All right. I'm just not it. You want something done, I'm your guy. I have a sense of where I want to go. All right. I want kids in school. I want parents free to pick the school. I want those damned water storage places built, because we're going to have a drought again. It's going to rain, and then we're going to have another drought. And I don't want to have this argument again. It's like discussing with your children their behavior. You talk to them, and they're good for a week, and then they revert. And then you got to talk to them again, and then they revert. Well, after the third or fourth time, you get really tired of it. I want people to follow the law. I don't want them telling me one set of rules for me to live by and another set that they get to live by. I'm very frustrated. I'm just through putting up with the crap that passes for political leadership now. There's no other way to describe it. It's on both sides of the aisle. We got grifters over here lining their pockets, running campaigns on this side, and we got the same group over here doing the same. And when the cameras are off and the newspaper reporters aren't there, the people who are running the grift on this side and the people running on the grift on that side are talking to each other about how to make the grift better, instead of talking about how do we make life better? How do we make housing affordable? How do we make fuel cost $3.50 instead of $5? How do we make a gallon of milk cost $3 instead of $5 a gallon? What about a dozen eggs? How come my kid can't go to the park because we got all those damned homeless there who are shooting up and leaving their needles in the play area? I'm fed up. I mean, look, this isn't my first rodeo, all right? I work with anybody who is seriously interested in making this place better. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat. You can be from Crescent City or LA, I don't care. If your intention is to help make this place better, let's sit down and make it happen.